So heroin sales plummet drastically. And these are the connections people can make for themselves. In fact, SAMHSA, which is the government under the Biden administration, the drug organization, the heroin sales went down to 10 cents a bag because Oxycontin, people could go legitimately from their doctors and get it. However, because Oxycontin now threatened heroin sales, and we should do some investigative research on this, we can talk more, suddenly there's this huge public outcry against Oxycontin. And in fact, many hospitals, in fact, it becomes a Schedule II drug, and doctors can only prescribe it through pain centers. So now guess what happens? The sales of people those people with chronic pain can't go to these pain centers. And suddenly there's a new drug introduced called fentanyl. And fentanyl is the heroin version 2.0, or essentially it is the alternative to Oxycontin, and 50% less use of Oxycontin, and fentanyl sales start exploding because that is an illegal drug. Remember, fentanyl is typically given to people after surgery during this very short period of time. Doctors really can't prescribe it. Fentanyl it's manufactured in China. It comes over to Mexico and into the United States. And typically they take the fentanyl and mix it in with other stuff. It's only been recently that the United States government went after China, but now fentanyl is actually made in Mexico and brought in. But if you really look at this entire arc, you had diacetylmorphine, which has existed for about over 100 years, which is used like aspirin by people for chronic pain. And because of the DEA's policy, suddenly diacetylmorphine becomes illegal, a Schedule I drug. Doctors can't even prescribe it. So people start moving to heroin on the streets. Does that make sense? And so that movement of everyday people trying to go get it on the streets, and there's this big halo effect. When diacetylmorphine is essentially morphine with two acetyl groups. When you take heroin, in the body, it just dissipates into morphine because there are a number of people with chronic pain. Oxycontin, same thing with the time-release version. A very valuable drug. Doctors were able to prescribe it in particular ways. Yes, there were some misuse, but turns out it's only about 4%. It was a lot of hype around this. But that hype and then the attack on Oxycontin literally created the gateway for fentanyl sales. And now fentanyl is like the new Oxycontin, isn't like the new heroin on the streets. And fentanyl sales have exploded, and Oxycontin, just to give you some statistics, 30,000 people, and this is from SAMHSA, allegedly died of overdose every year in the early 90s. Today, over 100,000 people allegedly die from drug overdose from fentanyl. But this is really misguided policies, in my view, of the DEA. And you can also look during this period from the 70s to today, anyone can just Google, see how explosively the DEA's budget has grown during this period. So DEA's budget has grown, and you have more people now dying of drug overdose. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't. We'll have to take a deeper dive into this because it really does show how big pharma has been so complicit over the decades in getting millions and millions and millions of people hooked on these poisonous drugs. Dr. Shiva, we'll have you back again to have another deep dive on all of this. Really appreciate that insight.
Good. Thank you. Be well. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Coming up next, we have more on
Thank you so much, doctor. Have a good one.
Great. Thank you. You're welcome.
So Texas with their little babies. More on